Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from Paul Gale Network, and thank you for joining me today as we have some cool video game news, sales, and general talk to go over, particularly on the Nintendo side of the industry. It is February 7th, 2023, and we are going to start by looking at Nintendo's fiscal report, which dropped late last night. Nintendo Switch now is at an amazing 122.55 million units sold worldwide. This is up by 8.22 million from the previous quarter. Again, this is now their total as of December 31st, 2022. So in that quarter, to have sold over 8 million for the platform being this close to turning 6 years old is amazing. And we are just at about 1 billion in software at 994.3 million. Safe to say, it is February 7th now. At some time in January, Nintendo Switch did indeed hit 123 million units and 1 billion units of software. So that's an 8.13 to 1 ratio, which is just staggering, mind-blowing. Nintendo did tremendously well in the last year, in the last quarter. Their fiscal year ends this March 31st, by which at that point, I expect Nintendo Switch to be at around 125 million. My original anticipation, my original prediction, if you want to call it that, a couple of years ago was that we'll see 128 million by this March 31st of 2023. I then lowered my own forecast to 125 million when Nintendo lowered theirs, and I did that earlier in 2022. It looks like that's going to be just about right because that would be another 2.45 million selling in this 3-month range of January 1st to March 31st, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's just about right, or maybe that's even a little bit conservative, as it could still be a little higher than 125 million. But you're looking at around that range, and software at that point will obviously be well over a billion. You're looking at not necessarily 1.1 billion, but 1 billion and several dozen million units of software sold. As far as the new top 10 best-selling games, we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, still at number 1, but now at 52 million. Now, the thing with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, this 52 million also includes those bundled versions of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that come usually around holiday time, Black Friday included with Nintendo Switch. So not necessarily have 52 million individual pieces of software been purchased, as some of those are kind of free copies as they're included with the Nintendo Switch at no extra cost come Black Friday. So the exact divide is a little bit more difficult to find out because Nintendo has been using this as their bundled in holiday Black Friday game for a few years now, but the game has still sold independently 35 million or so, perhaps. That's kind of a guess, with maybe 17 million of them being bundled. Again, I'm not sure if that is, the exact ratio, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like 35 to 17. Maybe it's even better in favor of individual sales, like 40 to 12, but only Nintendo knows that number exactly. Coming in at number 2, though, is Animal Crossing New Horizons, 41.59 million units sold. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is in third at 30.44 million. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the launch game for Nintendo Switch, not including the Wii U version, Nintendo Switch version alone, is at 29 million units out there. Pokemon Sword and Shield is at 25.68 million. Beautiful. So impressive. Each of these, let me rewind a little bit. Gosh. Mario Kart on Nintendo Switch, best-selling game of the series. Animal Crossing, best-selling game of the series. Smash Bros, same thing. Zelda, same thing by far. Pokemon Sword and Shield, it's the second best-selling pair of Pokemon games in franchise history, only behind the original Blue, Red, and Green, So to have topped Gold and Silver, Ruby and Sapphire, Sun and Moon, X and Y, any of the big selling Pokemon games that have been released in the years on Game Boy Color, GBA, DS, 3DS, that's impressive. Will it reach Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, and if you want to throw in yellow sales? Probably not. But the fact that it's second highest is a really powerful statement. And, the same thing could be said with The Legend of Zelda, which brings me up to my Tears of the Kingdom tangent. I think The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to be at least the second best selling game in Zelda franchise history. Will it reach quite as high of sales as Breath of the Wild? Maybe, maybe not. There's a possibility that it exceeds it, but there's a possibility that it sells comparable to what a lot of second entries do, and that is, a portion less. There are more Nintendo Switch owners now than at launch. Breath of the Wild has been able to last throughout this whole generation, nearly 6 years. It started off with a smaller install base, obviously. In fact, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was outselling Nintendo Switch at launch, believe it or not, launch aligned. The game was selling more than there were systems out there. And Tears of the Kingdom is coming out with, bam, 125 million, Nintendo Switch units out there, people that want the sequel, new word of mouth, probably a new SKU of the Nintendo Switch OLED model, something like that, launched alongside Tears of the Kingdom. So it could. But at the very least, it's going to sell second. Even if it sells half, you're looking at 15 million. That passes up Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, and so forth. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out before I go too far down. Because, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, not including the Wii U version, this Mario Kart 8 Deluxe by itself on Nintendo Switch is just the best selling in the series history. Probably even removing those sales of the game being included, bundled with Nintendo Switch, it probably still exceeds Mario Kart Wii, which was the previous top selling. Although we don't know that for sure, but we can see that this game continues to sell in quarters where there are no bundles. So yeah, safe to say this is just independently the best selling and overall best selling. Animal Crossing, like I mentioned earlier, just amazing. Let's go down this list because we have a few other titles to look at. This is beautiful. I'm so happy. As a Nintendo fan, as a lifelong fan, I'm honestly really happy to see the games that I love and care about so much do so well, because that's more happiness in the world and more shared joy that you get to talk to friends about. It's just good stuff. And the sixth best-selling game, anyhow, is Super Mario Odyssey, which is the best-selling 3D Mario game of all time, coming in at 25.12 million units sold worldwide. Will we see a Super Mario Odyssey 2? I don't know, but safe to say a new 3D Mario game has got to be in the, oven right now, cooking, baking, what have you. If I were to make a safe prediction, but part of it is wishful thinking, kind of, it just makes so much sense that you have Super Nintendo World opening officially, right, on February 17th. I've been twice. I'm going one more time before it opens up on the 16th. You've got the Super Mario Brothers movie opening up on April 7th. You want to capitalize on this Mario goodness by having a new Mario game come out close to this time, right? Nintendo doesn't have to. In fact, I mentioned it before on Twitter, on YouTube, etc., that Nintendo could drop, think of it, imagine, a 27-second commercial for the Super Mario Brothers movie during Super Bowl, right? Pay that $7 million for a 27-second commercial. And in the last 3 seconds, woohoo! Mario comes up, hits the Nintendo Switch logo, and it does price drop, effective now. Nintendo Switch, 300, 250. And then, yahoo! Hits one more time, the Nintendo Switch light box drops it from 200 to 170. Just in those last 3 seconds. Play Mario now. Quick image of, several of the Mario titles on the platform. Mario Party, Mario Odyssey, Smash Brothers, if you want to include Mario in there, because he is, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, something like that. And then you've got, well, that's the way how you capitalize on this Super Bowl ad. People want to see the movie. People are hyped. You just had a direct. You just had a park open, or about to open, as the 17th will take place a little bit after Super Bowl. And there you go. Price drop later on Twitter and stuff like that. Nintendo announces, effective also Nintendo Switch OLED model 300. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe that's a little bit too wishful of thinking, but That scenario seems to work quite well. Nintendo has yet to have a permanent, significant, worldwide price drop on their console, and that's the Lite, regular, or OLED. OLED, less expected to have a price drop right now because, it's only a couple of years old. But even still, one would say, yeah, that's a possible time for a revision model to have a price drop. No, Nintendo's still making bank. And sometimes people say, why are you so happy that Nintendo is making money? Well, Nintendo is my sports team. Nintendo is my friend. They've brought me a lot of joy in my childhood, in adulthood, now being a parent and getting to share that fun with my kids, my wife, etc. And when Nintendo succeeds, Nintendo has more money in the bank. Nintendo's going to make more games that I like, and that gives me more fun in the end. More merchandise that makes me happy. You know, when Xenoblade Chronicles 3, in my opinion, the best game of 2022, that was my game of the year, does well, that's more ammunition, that's more fuel to the fire for Nintendo to invest further in Monolith Soft producing more Xenoblade Chronicles games in the future. There's certain franchises that, like, yeah, you're probably always going to have Mario, but when Mario does really well, how about a bigger production budget, more money, more voice acting? Oh, you like that Jump Up Superstar song that people enjoy so much? We're going to have more voice acting and another song of similar nature and of similar quality in the next Mario game. So that's why I want Nintendo to succeed. Also, I have a lot of personal friends at Nintendo that I've befriended over the last 20 plus years of going to E3 and even before then that I'm happy for them too, So that's why. This is a cool one right here. The seventh best-selling game. Like I told you, this list has changed up since last time we checked it out. Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. It's only been out for 1.5 months. It came out mid-November, and it has now sold 20.61 million units worldwide. I mean, look at this. It's only 5.07 million units behind Pokemon Sword and Shield, and these pair of games have been out for a few years. Now, I'm not saying, okay, well, that means that this is on pace to doubling it. We're going to be at 40 million, in 3 months' time. No, these games sell heavy loaded in the beginning and then have a tail end. But look at Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield's tail end. It's been a long tail of consistently selling a few 100,000 copies per month, a couple more million per year and whatnot. So Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, maybe they're the two that pass Sword and Shield, and maybe Eclipse, that original Red, Blue, Green. Ooh, maybe. We've got DLC coming to Scarlet and Violet. We have Pokemon Day coming up soon. We have a Nintendo Direct to talk about, DLC on the way. Who knows? Maybe. Whew. Super Mario Party is number 8. This game is now at 18.79 million copies sold worldwide. Another best-selling in Mario Party franchise. It is this one. I already mentioned Mario, best 3D Mario ever. Ring Fit Adventure, new IP, came out on Nintendo Switch first with 15.22 million copies sold worldwide. This game will probably get a sequel. Maybe in addition to getting a sequel, it will also get a new accessory of some sort that kind of adds on to the experience in time. Time will tell. The game already did receive DLC, which was that, music implementation of, Jump Up Superstar, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild theme, Splatoon theme. So I could see some other Ring Fit Adventure stuff happening in the future. The game took over and was a massive success, and I think it's awesome. And the 10th best-selling game on the Nintendo Switch right now is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. That pair has combined sold 15.07 million. Now, did you notice something? The top 10 is made up of all 15 million plus sellers. Isn't that crazy? Probably before too long, Super Mario Party will hit 20, which means that's a top 8 having sold 20. Probably, we don't know how high The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom will sell, but if it sells roughly roughly 2/3 of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that's another 20 million seller. So I think that's going to be on here somewhere. Now you're looking at the top 9 best-selling Nintendo Switch games all being 20 million sellers. Maybe we get one more game in there somewhere that cracks number 10 and at 20 million. But even if not, for 8 currently, probably 9 eventually, maybe 10 games in the top 10 list to all be at 20 million or more is mind-blowing. In addition to this, Nintendo's list goes down to here, but there are other games that Nintendo has that are also 15 million sellers almost. And those include New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. That's at 14.75 million. That's a quarter of a million away. It's going to do 15 million. Pokemon Legends Arceus is at 14.63 million. That's really close, 370,000 away. That's going to hit 15 million. Splatoon 3, not on this list, but Splatoon 3 in its last quarter did a whopping 2.23 million. It's at 10.13 now. Could it long-term hit 15? Maybe. Time will tell. But talk about really cool. And speaking of some of these other numbers, let me go over what else is out there that's not on this list and something that I didn't mention already. Let's see. We've got Luigi's Mansion 3 continuing to sell. 12.44 million now. It did another 1 million, and we got this update. That previous number that we had was as of March 31st, 2022. So in the 9 months to follow, another 1.01 million units. So that's what I mean. Like, even when you don't see these Nintendo games charting on the NPDs or on Famitsu's charts or showing up in every fiscal report, they are continuing to sell. They're still in retailers nationwide, worldwide. They're still available on the eShop. Beloved games like Astral Chain that you don't see pop up all the time, they're still trickling around, a couple thousand here and there. If they're out in stores, they're still available on eShop. They're still selling. Mario Party Superstars, Mario Party Superstars. This one is Super Mario Party, but Mario Party Superstars is at 9.38 million. Nintendo Switch Sports, it did another 2.46 million in the last quarter at 8.61 now. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, it already became the best-selling Kirby game of all time, but it did another 850,000, now at 6.12 million. Mario Strikers Battle League did another 300,000. It's at 2.47 million. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3, though it debuted a lot stronger than Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it also dropped harder, doing only 90,000 in the last quarter, but it's still ahead of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 by a fair amount, which is at now, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, that is, 1.81 million. We have a few waves of DLC on the way. It has a good chance, I think, of popping up in tomorrow's Nintendo Direct, in which that will, help invigorate some more sales, especially if the DLC looks cool and it's, portrayed as new story, awesome stuff. Here's an update. Gets a nice little trailer. I think the game will lifetime hit 2.5 million, and that's cool. And then Bayonetta 3, another one, 1.04 million. That's great to see. We've got a Bayonetta prequel game coming out soon, and the fact that Bayonetta 3 already did 1 million, will it reach 2? That's a story for another day. That's a longer reach, but without being heavily discounted or anything, to have already hit 1 million in a time with a lot of competition, don't forget, because it came out very close to Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope and Nier Automata for Nintendo Switch, even though it was a port. And of course you had the pair of Pokemon. And then on the other console side of things, you had God of War Ragnarok. So you had a lot of different games to, choose from. But action-wise, that was the pure best action game of the year, I would say, in Bayonetta 3. So there you have it for the sales. We went over a lot of the heavy hitters, how Nintendo Switch did, and how its software did. As far as where I think it goes from here, if I wanted to be safe, let's go back to this page. I would say that we had a good amount of Nintendo Switch systems sell. Under 20 million for the calendar year. But if you wanted to be safe, I would say that it's not unimaginable to say 15.45 million more will sell in this calendar year of 2023, which brings us to a nice 138 million by 12/31/2023, And when you're looking at 138 million, I think from there you're about another 12 million away by December 31st of 2024 to reach 150. Okay? And at that point, in the next 14 or so months, which lines up nicely with the Nintendo Switch's anniversary of being only 9 in March of 2026, I think around that time, before it happens, maybe in the later part of 2025, we get Nintendo Switch at 160 million. So I think we're going to go, from 122.55 to 138 to about 150, and in the next 14 months, hit that 160. We have yet to have a permanent worldwide considerable price drop. We have yet to have a permanently reduced software lineup like Player's Choice or Nintendo Selects. I mean, imagine if a key dozen or so of Nintendo's software like Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, few other titles, maybe some third parties in there, Monster Hunter Rise, if Nintendo gets some, third parties in that are happy with where they sold, has a permanent new, Nintendo Switch Selects price of software at $30 or 40 MSRP. 30 MSRP would be just right. Back in the day, the lowest they got to, like official MSRP, was $19.99, in the GameCube era. But let's just go with 30. Also, I say permanent considerable price drop, but I'm not talking even end of the line price drop. By that I mean, yeah, maybe Nintendo Switch gets down from 300 to 250 as its first price drop, but who's to say it can't get down to 150 or 100? Who's to say that Nintendo Switch Lite can't go from, 200 to 170, that makes sense, but who's to say it can't go from 170 eventually to like 70 to 100? And if you think this is crazy, look at PlayStation 2. It came out in the year 2000 for $300. It had some price drops along the way. PS3 came out in 2006. By 2009, 9 years after PS2 came out, 3 years after PS3 came out, PS2 dropped to $100, from 300 to 100. And it had more price drops along the way. Nintendo Switch hasn't had a price drop yet at all, and it's on the verge of turning 6. So who's to say that Nintendo Switch itself can't eventually be $100? Or even if it gets down to like 150, that's half. That's a considerable price drop. And, Nintendo 3DS was originally a $250 system, and then you had versions of it like the Nintendo 2DS that dropped down to $70. So, yeah, an NS Lite at 70 or even 100, that's a considerable price drop. That's half. So imagine, right around the Nintendo Switch 9th anniversary, which would be March 3rd of 2026, you've got the ability to walk into a store and buy a Nintendo Switch console for 70 to 100, 120 bucks. And you've got all of these brilliant games, a dozen or so, maybe more, for $30. There's a point of market saturation, yes, but there are also new people being born every day. And with this system being so strong, if Nintendo keeps the manufacturing lines open and a couple of years into the development of Nintendo Switch 2 software, there are a couple of big titles that still come out on Nintendo Switch that, they have significant performance increasements, visually, in terms of frames per second, resolutions, more textures, etc., that is visible on Nintendo Switch 2. That's why you're buying the system. Also in hopes that it's going to have some exclusive games as well. But just in the beginning, a little bit of like, okay, you could get Metroid Prime 4, play it on either. It looks much better on NS2, but it still runs on NS. So it still makes the Nintendo Switch a vibrant console that is worth still picking a game up for, in 2027. Because not everyone will be ready to buy that $400 Nintendo Switch 2 or that $300 Nintendo Switch 2. You may have, younger siblings born, and you don't want to necessarily trust them to a $1,000 handheld device that's a tablet. You are maybe buying a Nintendo Switch 2 for the older child or for yourself, but you still want the younger one to feel included and have something that's still viable and not ancient technology. A Nintendo Switch Online account that could be shared, cartridges, physical medium, or eShop titles that could be still shared. So you buy a $70 Nintendo Switch Lite at that point, and you buy a $30 game that, like, okay, everyone can benefit from. You see what I mean? There's still a very good chance that should Nintendo do it just right. Now, there are a few ifs, but should Nintendo do it just right, the above what I mentioned, and continued success in Japan, well, in China, I should say, further penetrating that market, Nintendo Switch could hit 210 million worldwide. That's a wild number that a lot of people probably have a very difficult time wrapping their heads around. How could it do, 210 million when it looks like it's barely going to hit 160, and some people doubt it and say, oh, no, it's going to cap out at 135. First of all, 135 is wrong, or it's going to cap out at 140. 140 is wrong. The people that are saying I could see it go like 150, 155, but just be a little bit shy of DS or maybe between DS PS2, I could get their reasoning. But I think those people are failing to see that there's a long tail left over. There are price reductions that could still happen. Manufacturing lines still open. Nintendo Switch has really become a system that's not going to get abandoned for any time soon. In particular, smaller third parties and independent developers, indies. Yeah, 160 is the safe bet, okay? If it doesn't have anything crazy happen, if Nintendo doesn't capitalize on, okay, let's really try to make this thing a lot longer. Let's try to free the production lines and just all focused, all systems forward. Let's go hard on Nintendo Switch 2 development in terms of moving physical units out there. And it doesn't have a ton of success in China, penetrating that market further. Yeah, I can see why. Yeah, 160 might be it. But 210 is not impossible. Absolutely not. Time will just tell. And I'm excited to be here for it. And yeah, I guess that's all I gotta say on that. If you have any comments, whether you agree with me, are skeptical, have something else to say, I'd appreciate, your thoughts in the comments section below. I always try to engage because I genuinely like talking to everyone and hearing your opinions and respond back. And maybe you saw something that I didn't. Maybe you agree with me because you now are seeing something that you didn't before in what I'm saying, But let me know. All right, and moving on. Our next topic. This thing dropped this morning. Tune in at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow, February 8th, for a Nintendo Direct live stream featuring roughly 40 minutes of information, mostly focused on Nintendo Switch games launching in the first half of 2023. Watch it live here. And you can see this beautiful thing tomorrow. Am I excited for this? I had an individual tell me originally, expect something sooner than later. And that led me to think either sooner than later meant January or February instead of March or April when it comes to a Nintendo Direct, because they've happened in all 4 of those months as far as the early Nintendo Directs of the years go in the first third of the year. Or it could mean maybe something as early as January, like late January, as a sooner than later. Well, evidently, February 8th almost fits those bills both. It is a January, February, not a March or April. And February 8th is also an earlier part of February, as we've seen them come in later times of February. February has a 28 days most of the time. And I think it was like 58% of all early Nintendo Directs occur in February, 57% in the first half, 57% on a Wednesday. So when I pulled my stats together, I saw February 8th was the most likely. My safe bet not to be disappointed was February 15th, but I thought February 8th was it, and February 8th is indeed it. That's just what the stats showed, and the stats were correct this time around. So that means that percentage-wise, now we have, more likelihood that it's going to be earlier February next year on a Wednesday in the first half, But still, that expect something in the earlier than later part, the sooner than later part. February 8th is only 8 days removed from January, so I guess that was close too. It was a little bit of skeptical nature to think that maybe something small, like a what's it called, a Nintendo Direct Mini or a game-focused Nintendo Direct on something smaller or not so small, could happen in the late end of January. That didn't quite happen. That's okay. I expect what was regarding that, which is not a title that I know of, just I know that something is coming, something's going to be in here. I'm going to be surprised like everyone else. It's exciting. Whatever that was will be here. We'll just call it that. As far as what's going to be here, that's where you go wild with your predictions. I think they open with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I think they close with Metroid Prime Remake. And then that one more thing, by the way, here's the first glimpse at Metroid Prime 4, but, not have a date. Maybe call it 2024, or maybe don't even give it a year, just still in development, or shaping up nicely, or something like that. The in-between, DLC stuff. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC, Splatoon 3 DLC, Nintendo Switch Sports DLC, maybe some GameCube support, whether it is Nintendo Switch Online GameCube support or a couple of titles from Nintendo GameCube's past that are getting some kind of remake treatment. Perhaps Star Fox Zero or that's a Wii U title, but perhaps, that's another thing. Is a couple of Wii U titles, but I don't want to deviate. Well, I'll go really quick. Star Fox Zero, Yoshi's Woolly World, Twilight Princess or Wind Waker HD. Any one of those 4 games, I could see one of them popping up here. But back on the Nintendo GameCube side of things, an F-Zero GX, could that be a possible? A Baten Kaitos, remake? And some of these could be like remakes or remasters or quasi-remake, remaster, something in between. Any combination of those could be cool. If it's for NSO, that would be nice and kind of a welcome surprise to have some of these games there. But the big one for me is Metroid Prime Remake. I think ideally we'd get a Metroid Prime full-on remake, like Resident Evil 2 style, and then we'd get a bundle of Metroid Prime 2 and 3 coming to us in a remaster style later on. If there is Metroid Prime tomorrow, I hope that they tie in, hey, by the way, when you buy Metroid Prime, if you have a saved file of Metroid Dread, it will unlock a new suit and something exclusive in Metroid Prime. That will help fuel Metroid Dread sales and get people more excited for Prime. So you do Prime, then you do Prime 2 and 3 as a bundle. That's a remaster kind of version, something similar to, the Super Mario, 30th anniversary 3D collection with Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, and then later on you have Metroid Prime 4 later on. So that's how I would do that. Maybe a Metroid 2D game is here. Donkey Kong, perhaps. There's been rumors of that. Anything else from GameCube? Honestly, I'm not expecting, Eternal Darkness, but that would be a big surprise, certainly. A Star Fox Assault, that would be a welcome surprise. What is Bandai Namco working on? Is there anything Will we see any third-party support that is, a little bit unexpected? Welcome surprise. To capitalize on Mario and the park and the movie, Mario would be great. Donkey Kong would be great. Gosh, there's always something unexpected that Nintendo just drops. Paper Mario, that came out of nowhere. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, what? And it's coming out in a few more months. Fire Emblem Engage, that one from when they officially revealed it to when it came out wasn't that big of a time, but it kind of got leaked a little bit earlier, so we knew something was coming from Fire Emblem. But yeah, 40 minutes roughly, and games mostly in the first half of the year. So I think probably, more than half will be first half of the year, but we'll have a few second half games and perhaps one that's a little bit farther off. And if I had a bet, I'd say Metro Prime 4 is that one. I don't know. I don't want to set myself up for disappointment, but you know what? I'm not going to be disappointed because probably, very likely, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to be here. And whether it gets like a 15-minute big chunk occupying almost half of this presentation for just it, or it gets like a 5-minute, here's Zelda, we're also bringing back the Symphony of the Goddess concert, we're having an OLED model of the system, here's the collector's edition, here's the new amiibo coming out, and then the rest are these other games. I'm going to dive through this Zelda footage over and over and over again because that's my most anticipated game. The Legend of Zelda is a special series for me, big time. One of my favorites of all time in gaming. Top 3. It's this shared, space of The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario, and Street Fighter, And yeah, Zelda means a lot to me. So just having Zelda tomorrow is going to be awesome. And honestly, okay, so if it's not there, that would be a little bit of a disappointment, but I'd still be happy with the other 40 minutes of content because I love a lot of Nintendo games. I'm not just I watch Nintendo for Zelda and Mario. I like all of the Nintendo IP. I play quite a bit of Nintendo stuff. I've never avoided any one particular franchise. There are some that I enjoy more than others. I like Mario more than Pikmin, but I still like Pikmin. I've played more Zelda than Golden Sun. Well, there's also more Golden Sun titles out there, but I like Golden Sun, And if Zelda's not there, it's going to be a disappointment in those regards, but still happy for all of the other cool stuff. But I think we're getting Zelda. I think we're getting Metroid Prime Remake. I think it's time to show off Metroid Prime 4. And I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised with something unexpected like a Mario or Donkey Kong, maybe an F-Zero or a Star Fox, maybe a port from Wii U, and maybe something like a GBA or GameCube coming to Nintendo Switch Online. It doesn't have to be everything. It just has to be one or two of these things and a couple of these things, and like that makes a perfect Nintendo Direct, all right? That's me. I grew up in an era where I got my Electronic Gaming Monthly, I got my Nintendo Power magazine once a month in the mail, went to the newsstand, sometimes picked up some other magazines, got a couple of VHS tapes from Nintendo Power throughout the year, and that was it. And now we have so much social media interaction and get to feel that energy. We get to see our companies that we love on Facebook, Twitter, social media sites, YouTube, Instagram, and it's fantastic. So the fact that we get that all the time and like 3 Nintendo Directs a year, this is awesome. There's no reason to not be happy. We live in a very good time for the video game industry and for being a video game fan. So that's my discussion for today. We went over some sales, we went over the news, and we did some talk of what I think is going to show up tomorrow. I can't wait. I'll be live streaming tomorrow at 2 p.m. If you enjoyed my content or want to see more content, I appreciate a like, a follow, subscription, anything like that. Even a comment in the comment section, like I said. I look forward to hearing back from you. All right, this is Paul Gale Network signing out. Thanks again for your time. I appreciate it. Hope you all have a good one, and I'll see you next time for some more video game discussion. Alrighty, bye.